Quick greetings. Welcome. We're following up on our last video and hoping to emphasize the main points. The main points regarding our Indian not taxed, legal, lawful birthright standing in the Americas. We need to reclaim it. The system it's like going down, and it's like hoping to take us down with it. You know what I'm saying? It's going down, hoping to revamp the whole thing and start it all over again. Before that happens, God forbid, we need to be clear on where we stand as American Indians. Who are the American Indians? Sorry about that. This clip from the article on iloveancestry.com takes us right to who we are, who the real American Indians are. Why are we claiming to be the real American Indians? Why can we do that? Because real American Indians are not taxed. Real American Indians are not under the jurisdiction of the federal or the state constructs, the federal or the state governments, whether they be national or international. They don't have jurisdiction over us as American Indians. So who are the real American Indians? Because you would want to get rid of those Indians so that you can railroad through their people, their men and women. And with all of these Indians being taxed, you can be like the richest thing there ever was, right? Like your Mansa Musa, right, Moors? Who suddenly became rich. I think his visits to America had something to do with that. Or let's say, was it his Abu Bakari, what was that, his brother? Um, yeah, well, if we recall, when we read, what's the name of the book? The riches in America were unlike any in the world, right? That book didn't say that at the time of Columbus, Africa was the richest place in the world. It said the Americas were. That was the naming. I think the name of that book is The Naming of America. Roughly, that's the name of the book. It's a primary source. And it's telling us that at the time of Spanish conquest, there were riches unsurpassed in the Americas. Now, we will have to realize that they're talking about South America when they called it America. That was the first part of America that they discovered. It was known as just America back then, and then it became South America. So Mansa Musa could not have been very rich if the riches in America were unsurpassed by any other riches in the world, right? That's what the book said, yo. So did Mr. Musa get his riches? You know he did, yo. You know he did. This is why America, I made a statement before that we were the last to be colonized. Actually, we were the first. And I think it's the longest colonization because why? This is where the wealth was. This is where the wealth is. But if America remains just a colonized place because she's got wealth, what does that mean for her people? That means endless injustice, right? How many people believe in justice still? Because I do. So, how would justice look for Indians who are raped of their wealth daily since the 1400s right up till right now, 2024, about to be 2025? What does justice look like for those Indians? Well, no one is trying to picture that justice. But indication from the ancestors is that there will be Indians who take that mantle. There will be Indians who stand up for the justice due to our ancestors. We're not even going to be bothered with the Indians who wish to stay sucking on colonizer monopoly money. They're poor in heart, they're poor in spirit, they're poor in soul. They don't know what wealth is because all they see is colonizer monopoly dollars. Okay. And so, but they can't stop us. That's the point here. You know, it's very frustrating because it seems like they're the noisiest on the YouTube streets. They're the ones talking about, you know, they want to talk about what's going on at Hollywood today. And they want to comment on what's going on with Biden and Trump. Oh, God. They want to talk about Kamala. Yeah. So we're being raped of our wealth as we speak. And all Indians can do is talk about frivolous BS that ain't gonna change crap. Well, if I am the one voice in the wilderness, then so be it. Didn't want to be. Didn't think I would be, but I can't help but feel like that is exactly what the case is. No one is looking at the legal predicament we're in. And when they do, again, they're trying to do it within the framework of federal laws. Are you kidding? So we kind of went off there on the tangent, but that screenshot is what we really want to get into. Who are the real American Indians? And they're real because they had to be reclassified. They were so real that they had to be reclassified. And then Native Americans are going to take your place. But they've never been Indians not taxed because they were only basically created I don't have the date on me, but I think I did learn that they're a recent occurrence. This idea of Native Americans, they're like they didn't they come around in the civil rights era, and we know that civil rights. What the hell are they? They are something. Peter DeRico, the attorney that tells us about federal anti-Indian law, he told us that. Um, was it him? Well, ooh, I might have got that wrong, but he told us a lot. But what we learned was that civil rights are only a portion of the Bill of Rights. So those Native Americans, first of all, their legal fight is happening in the 1960s. That's why we know they're brandy new, right? Who are the Indians in the Constitution that occurred in the 1700s? Well, let's read about who they are. These are the Indians that were falsely listed on all census records as Negro, Black, or colored. We're going to cut to the chase because those are the words that have had what the federal system created, like for example, Negro codes, right? We didn't have musty codes, did we? We didn't have mulatto codes, right? We didn't have a mulatto power movement. We didn't have a NAAMP, National Association of Mulatto, whatever, people or whatever. So those two that we didn't highlight, they're just standing out. They're just like little diversions from the real deal. The real deal are the three we highlighted. Negro, Black, colored. Those are the ones that have legislation behind them, right? And what is that legislation? Stuff that Congress made up, right? Stuff that they made up based on roughly part of the Bill of Rights, right? So the real Indians had these kind of laws. The Fakians, the Native Americans, they came in legally during the civil rights movement because what they had civil rights for them too, right? There was a civil rights for Indians, and then there's a civil rights for colored and Blacks and Negroes, right? So again, the difference is those are brandy new Indians because they're a brand new thing that were not here when the United States established this fat tail on our ancestral lands. So who are the real Indians? These are the American Indians who were falsely listed on all census records as Negro, Black, colored. And we're not even going to go with white. White is a whole other status. Black and white do not mix. So why would they mix here? So there they go. You know, this is one of the best articles on the paper genocide, but we still have to mind our P's and Q's. So they're saying some Indians that in actuality, that might actually be correct because they were literally going by what you looked like, right? So what I should have said is the Black and white, no, they don't mix, but they are caste system. So they're taking their place in the caste system. So some Indians, I guess they're telling us that some of them did pass for white. The idea was that we have to keep in mind is that the real Indians must be put as the lowest in the caste system. This is what we have. This is how we make this make sense. So when you read this and you're wondering, why are they talking about white people? Why are they talking about black people when we're really talking about Indians? Well, because they're going to basically bowl over anything in reality, and they're going to go based on what you look like. Now, what you look like has really nothing to do with it has not as much to do with your actual, shall we say, for lack of a better word, nationality. You know, so uh, the real Indians are going to descend to the bottom of the caste system. Why are the real Indians going to descend to the bottom of the black and white caste system? Because these are the Indians that are so plentiful that if you tax them, again, your colonizer is stealing from you. Not only is he stealing your land from under your feet, he's stealing any wages that you make through taxation, a taxation that you were never supposed to be levied with. Indians are not taxed in the United States Constitution. Okay? So this establishment, what they would call, I guess, no, let's call it what it is, the Congress. Congress, they don't just sit there and make up all kinds of reasons to tax us. They have to be crafty because it's really like they're, well, according to the state nationals, they're like a collection agency for the nobility. Okay. The priesthood is a level of nobility as well. So they have to get very creative with how they are going to make money off of those they have colonized. It's not just taking the land from under your feet. It's paying them daily, weekly, monthly from your hard-earned dollars, American Indians. That's why if you get yourself together, stand on your constitutional right. Do you know how much income this bastard beast loses? Oh, well, doesn't matter because the reparations they owe us is off the chain as well. Okay? But you got to get yourself where you belong according to the Constitution. You are Indians not taxed. We're looking at who the Indians are. That's why we have this page here. Who are the Indians not taxed in the Constitution? They're certainly not Native Americans. Again, they are the Negro, the Black, the colored, who, again, we don't see much about the history of Native Americans. But the real Indians are going to have a whole history and a whole psyop that says they're from Africa, complete with movies, DVDs, TV shows, documentaries, all of that. That's how you know who the real Indians are. You can't just reclassify them because, God forbid, they remember who they are because it's in their blood. You have to do a whole psyop operation complete with Hollywood, the music industry, the sports, every industry, all claiming that the real Indians are from Africa. But they don't. So how do you come to a country as a colonizer and your main focus are the slaves you brought with you? Does that make sense? Your main focus is always going to be the ones that you are stealing from every day as they stand, where they stand, on their birthright ancestral land. It's so sad, Indians, for us that we don't have a whole freaking tribe worth of Indians saying this. Where are their heads at? Because this is the most important thing. Yes, I said it. This is the most important thing to any Indian who is being called Black as we speak. If there is nothing else we need to talk about, we need to talk about getting our proper ethnic ancestral standing back. None of this other bullshit about Kamala and all of that. She wouldn't apply to American Indians. Why? Because American Indians are not part of the federal government. Does anyone know how to think outside of that construct? Because you need to start to in order to get out of it. The more you put yourself in it, the more you will be. And we've known for the last 500 years that it is not the greatest place for American Indians to be. Your brother Heru is going forward with what he knows. So he will be sharing it with you. That is what I must do. So where am I in that journey? I'm here today because I want to share with you. In other words, we want to really drive the point home of who the American Indians are so that we can know who's not supposed to be taxed and who's not represented in Congress and who's not under the jurisdiction of the federal government. Okay? So with that, let's just finish reading this. Now, this is what's critical. The next sentence. This is what's going to convict the federal government for what they did to American Indians. This was an intentional. It was intentional. It wasn't a mistake that American Indians are called Black, colored, Negro. Now, I asked the audience, what other Indians you ever knew that were called Negro, Black, or colored? And you really need to think about that because we have people watching us, right, who are not Indians and who may think we're crazy for what we're saying. I need you to read the page in front of you. I did not write it, but I read it with the eyes of the ancestors. You really just need your own eyes, but we need the ancestors to constantly reel us back to the truth because of the massive brainwashing. So to my listening audience who are not Indians, I'm here to tell you, you can rest assured that the real Indians are called Negro, Black, and colored. If you want to join us and help us, since we have so many brainwashed Indians, we are here and we accept your whatever advocating you can do. Hey, that's just the way it is, yo. So what? This was an intentional reclassification? Oh, so you did this on purpose. What was the driving goal? Why did they intend to misclassify American Indians as Black? Once again, they were all about, they did not want us to prosper on our own land. So they thought of every way that they can limit any profit we could possibly make. Now, remember, they already took us out of what they call commerce, right? Because how did they do that? Well, they said they were going to regulate commerce. Again, we should have asked them, what do you mean by regulate? Because according to the federal and state, that means changing American Indians into Black. But then once you do that, we can't do commerce with you anymore, right? Because you're going to swear that we're from Africa. So you don't have to do anything with us except pump out more propaganda, more lies that we're from Africa. This is what this system did. They okay. We said this before. What were the Indians going to use or sell in commerce? It would have had to have been the produce of your farmland and all the other great things that Indians create. Let's not limit it to farming, because we know damn well that it's mostly Indians that created every piece of ingenuity in, I'm going to be humble, in America, okay? Let's keep it in America, okay? Because we ain't trying to show out. We just want our land back, okay, people? This is all Indians want. We don't want your land. We want ours. And by the ancestors, we're going to have it. We're going to have it. For years, they told us about the end of the world. All they're dreading is the end of their world. And that shit has to come to an end. They're trying to make us afraid of what the ancestors are doing here, which is giving us our land back. We should never be afraid of that. So this was an intentional reclassification, which was passed down from generation to generation to the present, right to today. Even presently entered on many American Indians' vital records, which they're not supposed to have any of our vital records. If I'm not in your system, there is absolutely no need for you to count me in your vital records. You are concerned with the immigrants. Them is your people. This was a grab, y'all. It was a huge grab. You know that we make up mostly all of their records, right? Because it's mostly us up in this piece. They can certainly now take a load off, can't they? You don't have to count me, federal government. We could demand that they destroy all those records if we stood in our proper standing, on our proper standing. We could demand, constitutionally demand, what are you doing with my records? You don't need to count me. You don't need to keep any tabs on me. And that would make all of your monitoring through the cell phone, the TV, and the smart this and the smart that, that would make that all illegal when it comes to American Indians. Oh, Indians, your future is looking mighty bright according to Heru's vision, yo. It is looking bright as I don't know what. You hear me? Get some eyes. Ancestors give them out for free. Get you some. Go get you some. You got to get out of this system, y'all. And you know damn well you did. How you going to you talk about being a Hebrew? Do you know what they did according to their story? They got the hell out. And you talking about voting for Trump and or Kamala. Y'all don't even get your own narratives that you claim. Y'all don't even get those right. In those narratives, the people are saying, get the hell out of Dodge. Let my people go. But y'all want to stay. Well, this is my theory, y'all. I don't think those are Indians. I think we're dealing with remnants of the Iroquois Confederacy and those working with the Iroquois Confederacy, the 5 civilized tribes, and the Lenni Lenape. Yeah, those are the Algonquins that unfortunately said, well, gotta go and just give it up. Let's just surrender. I mean, hey, they can still come out. They can still come out. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it quick. The Iroquois are going to have to answer for what they've done. And I think Indians are going to have to really decide how you go forward. Do you even want that level of treachery in your midst? If a thing is that dedicated to that which they have partnered with, then they need to go with that which they have partnered with because they cannot be trusted. That is the future of the Iroquois Confederacy. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what they have brought on themselves. There is no way that you get to walk away like walk into the sunset on this one, Iroquois Confederacy. You have so much answering to do. I would suggest you just leave. You don't want to answer those questions. Questions like, how did you allow all Indians to be federally classified Black? How did that happen on your watch? Why did you let that happen? What did you stand to gain from that? See, that's why when you hear Indians talk about, let's all be a happy family, it has to be the Iroquois Confederacy that would even think of something that's ridiculous. Because we will never be a happy family until we deal with these issues. Y'all know I ain't saying nothing but the truth. Y'all know I ain't talking nothing but the truth. So when you hear Indians talk about, oh, we just need to all be one, it's probably those who are highly influenced by that kind of Iroquois civilized tribe rhetoric, when they know damn well that was not what the deal was. If that's what the deal was originally, there would be no colonizer here to this day because we would have all banded together like a happy family and we would have dealt with this. What we had was a bunch of Indians jumping on board with colonizers, okay, and coming against other Indians because they were apparently very much mixed in with the Moors. Let's just say a thing what it is, yo. Call a thing a thing. Call a thing a thing. So there you have it. That's why we have the screen up. We need people to be very clear who the Indians are when we read our next article. But before we go to the article, we're going to show where this snippet comes from. It comes from this. Thank you, I Love Ancestry, for a nearly excellent article where you tell it like it is. I Love Ancestry. Big kudos to I Love Ancestry. It's the only place I find where they are laying out what the paper genocide was and who was most damaged by it. How do you know we're most damaged? How do you know that Blacks, Negroes, and colors are most damaged by this paper genocide? Because the system went so far as to create a whole lie about where we come from. That's how damaged we are. This system don't play. When it goes to genocide you better, hopefully the ancestors got your back, because you will even think you're from Africa. This system, the way with the spells they got on us, you will swear. I hate to admit it, but we went through our dashiki period, yo. My brother, I remember my mother bought us, and from what I recall, I liked the damn thing, the dashiki. So this thing that they cast upon us, it is no joke. It was very, very, very. It was large scale. It just affected nearly just about all Indians because they grabbed all of us, yo. And again, but they actively were pushing this narrative of Black through the media. You know, we use that example of James Brown singing about being Black and proud. That was a whole propaganda record. That was a whole propaganda recording. And the music industry that's not the only one. You know what I'm saying? We know that all throughout the music industry and the film industry the theater industry and all of Hollywood, and it's all just creating a whole lie because the money too good, y'all. All that money that should be going directly to Indians that they earn, because you work harder than anything. You're going to work harder than anybody, except maybe the new slaves, the immigrants. Well, let's just say they are too green to understand what's happening to them. But they will be paying everything that is spent on them back. This is a corporation, y'all. What corporation gives away money? They expect to have they don't not only do they not give away money, they're expecting a return. Okay. They are thinking of generations of the nobility. They have to have them covered. It's almost like every time a Negro is born or every new immigrant that comes in, they can almost calculate, to the minute the trust fund that's going to go to some nobility. It's crazy, yo. But yes, we want to thank I Love Ancestry, and we want to move down. There's that Walter Plecker. And you know what? We all get upset about Walter Plecker. We do. We see that face and we just want to take them glasses and shove that shit up his nose, right? Break out the lenses and let that go in his eye, right? But we know damn well that this man didn't do this by himself, right? That, this system, they have a way of getting a fall guy, I know Diddy knows all about that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I will say this because it really struck me when I thought about it, the whole Diddy thing. How do the FBI suddenly become all anti-Diddy when all before that they was all working together with Diddy? I'm going to give you my theory since this is a popular topic, and I know we're all, enthralled in this theater, but I wondered why now it's so important to take a Diddy down. Now, I don't know what other Indians think, but here's what I thought, the best of my thoughts. The election is crucial, y'all. A whole world of Hollywood stars with Diddy tapes. And a lot of these stars are very outspoken in who they want to vote for and all of that, right? You got to be able to shut that down with a Diddy tape. So I imagined, what is this Diddy thing about? Why are they doing this to him? When they know he was doing this the whole damn time and they didn't give a shit. And in fact, they wanted him to do it. They needed him to get those recordings so that if they need, I don't know, let's just say, I'm only using her name because she's vocal, a Barbara Streisand. Now, Barbara is not involved in this, okay? That we know that her name has never been mentioned. And I know I do her a disservice by even saying her name. But I use her because she is someone who's very outspoken. I think she even wrote a song. It's a very beautiful song. It was political, and I forgot the name of it. But it's a beautiful song. Say now they need Barbara to suddenly go Democratic. All they need is a Diddy tape on Barbara. And then all them praises she would wait a minute. I'm sorry. Oops. Barbara is already a Democrat. Oops. But say now she wasn't. And they needed her to be for Kamala. Actually she already is. I'm guessing. I don't know. She never said anything about Kamala. But I think she is a staunch liberal. So but a lot of liberals are going, Republican. And I shouldn't be talking about this because, again, none of this applies to me as an American Indian. I want my land back. That's all I'm concerned about. And I want what is owed to me for the use of my land that I could have used for the last over 200 years. For the last over 200 years, American Indians, it's like we were given what they call welfare. But what would have been better than welfare? In other words, you never had to give me welfare. Now you're going to try to penalize me because you gave me welfare. You're going to think that that is reparations. Oh no, it's not. Oh no, it's not. With I had no control where I should have had control. As landowner, I was supposed to make my income, not you. You weren't supposed to limit any of my income. Well, and I hate to even call it income, my profit. Okay, whatever. I just don't like using their terms. I hate the whole commercial scene. I find it demonic, to be quite frank. And that's a word I don't like to use, but it's the best word for this situation. So now the government will say, we paid you with welfare. No, you didn't. You gave me the minimum that you could possibly, the most minimum you could possibly give me, where my wages or my profits could have been whatever I wanted them to be. So you didn't do anything for me but placate me and demean me and insult me with welfare because you took my role as landlord, for lack of a better word. You came in my house and you stuffed me in the basement while you lived off of my wealth, sold my wealth, and made profit off of my wealth. So let's not allow this system to even think that it compensated us. You insulted me. You insulted me. Let's look at what you made, and now we can get an idea of what was due American Indians. So yeah, we just want to show that this is where we got that I'm sorry, where's that? This from. This little piece that tells us who the real American Indians are. Remember, real ones have to, you don't beat a dead horse. So they don't give a two farts about Native Americans. They got them in the pocket. Why? Because those people are not the original people of America. They're just, again, this is something like they use as a prop to, when they want to make it look like they doing right by us, they grab them. And then when they go to town on African Americans, that's when we show up because we've been given these, this false identity. So yeah, just to be sure, in the slavery and indentured servant and prisoner of war days, being listed as Negro was done to we're not Native, okay? Native Americans are what the Congress created as our doppelganger, okay? They're a very cunning group there, okay? So being listed as Negro was done to Indians not taxed, shall we say. In order for slave owners, now, because not all owners were white, there were some Moors that were, our same skin tone, right? That had slaves and all that, or had indentured servants. I think it was two things. I think they're trying to make it interchangeable, like slaves and indentures were the same thing. I'm kind of leaning toward maybe the real Indians for a time had indentures, but the Negropeans had slaves. You know what I'm saying? And so then they want us to be one and the same. So then they start to make the words as if they're one and the same, and they're not. Um, so once again, Indians were made Negro. So it could appear that there were more Africans here when there weren't. That's what this piece is saying. Many blood Indians have lost a God given birthright due to the sham of slavery in southern states. See, this is where it all started. Virginia was considered southern. This whole reclassification started in Algonquin territory. But remember, the Algonquins were effectively made eradicated on their own land. So who is the only Indian left on the northeastern territories? That would be the Iroquois, because it was namely the Iroquois and the Algonquin who allegedly had the northeastern and south. Well, actually, I don't think the Iroquois was that far south, actually. But what they did was they got the 5 civilized tribes, they infiltrated them, and that's when they became more southern, because the 5 civilized tribes are southern states. So this reminds me that in their little Indian DNA test, they didn't take samples from the southern states. It's really the South. Ever since, I would have to think that the Confederate thing had a lot to do with Indians, because it's really the South that is getting this very severe genocide, and this thing of being prisoners of war. It's looking like it was the South that bore the brunt of this. And then the 5 civilized tribes appear, and that's, they're supposed to sort of, okay, they remained Indians, but they were shooed off the land. And the Indians who stayed, I don't think they knew that they were what they were doing, but they remained home. So that's how I know that my Indians are indigenous to the area that they come from, because they didn't go across the Mississippi. So if you ended up across the Mississippi, you were probably one of the 5 civilized tribes. It's complicated, but it's not that complicated. But I will say, I seem to be more happy that my Indian family stayed home, even though it meant that this bastard system would grab them into a Black status and make them citizens. They should have never even, if they didn't fully explain to us what it would mean, because see, we got the idea that we would become equal with this. I guess we got to the point where many of our Indians thought, well, it's bad either way. Maybe as citizens, we can get a better deal. No, you didn't, because they made sure. See, this is how you know the genocide is happening. They never wanted Indians to be equal. This is a wicked system. They just don't have any love for us, y'all. I don't know any other way to say it. For Indians to even fix their face to talk about voting in the system, they are the most ass backward thing there ever could be. I don't know if they're just ignorant. I don't know if they're just players in the play trying to keep us in this system and have they have the gall to try to make us believe that there is something in the system for us. They even talk about civil rights. When you get real and realize that civil rights are only a portion of the Bill of Rights, maybe Indians will get a clue as to how you're not getting anything but a big fat nothing burger. You should never want civil rights, even if you did stay in this damn system. You better want the Bill of Rights, but don't worry that you will not get your birthright back. But if that's what you want so bad, at least know what the hell to ask for in that wretched system. At least get the full range of the fraud. They program Indians to think that civil rights is the goal. Civil rights is a part of the Bill of Rights, y'all. You're not getting all of the Bill of Rights. And y'all talk and you keep saying something about, I hear people talk about my civil rights, blah, blah, blah. Fuck your civil rights. You ain't even supposed to be in that federal system. But again, if you're going to be dumb enough to want that bullshit, at least get the full range of what is the peanuts that they're offering you. Okay, I'm going to stop ranting. I should make myself aware that I should not let agents get to me. Real Indians will want their birthright. Agents will keep pushing for us to stay in the system. That's how we have to look at this. Our people are not as dumb as they pretend to be. It's just that I guess the heart goes out to those who are being misled by the agents. You don't want to see an Indian be denied in the time of the awakening, when you need more Indians to get on board with their birthright and their legal lawful standing according to the damn Constitution. In one way, I want to take that Constitution and throw it away. And in another, I am so glad that it exists, because it really, truly convicts this system of crimes against American Indians. They want us gone so bad, y'all, because they don't want to face the music of what they've done with that Constitution. And I just want to say, I keep coming back to this, but we should have never even, I realize, yes, the first article, now they're saying that it's a clause. I never say clause because I don't see clause written, but they're calling it a clause. When I look at the Constitution, it doesn't say Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. I don't see the word clause, but I see the word article and I see the word section. So you tend to use Clause 3, but it's the third paragraph in that article, in that section. Okay. That one is good because it really, again, when you get the eyes of the ancestors, it's telling you that American Indians were not citizens. And the article we're going to look at, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, but the article that I come to the video with, that's what I want to help to get Indians to drive the point home that we are not part of this system, because Indians really don't believe that. They think that, no, this thing is established and we must go by it. Oh, no, you don't have to. And again, but they cannot penalize you because they did everything they could to make sure you got pulled into their system. So in other words, the government can't retaliate because it did far too much to leave you stranded. So what does that mean? That means now you have to aid me wherever you can, as opposed to you trying to act like you coming after me because I'm not in your system no more. No, you won't be doing that. You've already genocided me as much as you possibly could. So you got to make yourself look good now. We the Indians, we're not Negroes no more. So if you claim that you're doing all this stuff for the Native Americans, how much more will you have to do for American Indians, unfortunately? But that's the bed you made, and now it's time to lay in it. So the first article, that one seems very good to me. It's legitimate because it's really telling the world these Indians are not part of this federal system. We're just supposed to leave them alone, let them be, and let them do whatever they do on their land. But we cannot harm them. Now, it didn't say that, but that is the understanding. You best believe it. You best believe it. That article, okay. But by the time we get to the Article 8, and they're talking about regulating commerce, that's the one that we have to question. Because as far as I'm concerned, when China does commerce with Russia, it is not just Russia that gets to regulate that commerce. Do you feel what I'm saying? Why does one nation get to regulate the commerce? So I realize there's something wrong with this system taking sole authority in regulating commerce between a sovereign and people who just became sovereign. How do you get to regulate commerce of another sovereign? What do you mean by that? See, they never really defined what regulate means because they're going to make the most out of that. They're going to go all the way with that. They're going to make it something that it's not, and they're going to end up pulling us into the. I read where they somehow use the Commerce Clause to pull authority over Indians in commerce, but then again, why would that even be? Why would you get to dominate commerce? When you're on my land? So I realize the Commerce Clause is kind of looking crazy to me. But never worry, never fear. We never really did commerce. We were changed to black, and it was the end of that. There was no commerce between Indians and the states. What it was it was commerce between the feds and the states. You see, the federal government took your place, Indians. They became the dominant factor through Congress. And now Congress claims that they have plenary authority. You must be talking about over Native Americans because the Constitution never gives you plenary authority over American Indians, not taxed, as you call us. Indians, I don't know any other way to say it, but you see, I'm making a second video to try to make this crystal clear because homie is making some boss moves in the coming weeks and definitely before this year is out. And you don't worry, you're going to hear all about it. It's not going to be much to hear because I know I'm not going to really get no response, but I bet you they won't bother me. I bet you they ain't going to bother my ass. Why? Because I'm standing on the Constitution, y'all. And my argument is I'm standing on the Constitution just to grab my standing. But as far as I'm concerned, your Constitution, after the fact that after I tell you that I'm a separate sovereign and you have breached the contract that I made with you, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't know why you're here, but it must be to facilitate the reparations that you owe me. It's all I can think of. Because your shenanigans are done. The whole thing was against Indians more than it was for anybody. What I mean by that is, if you really look at what happened, that was the goal of the entire thing. That's why we can't just resurrect them and say, oh, let's just do it again. No, serious changes will be made, and they will be made by American Indians, because now we know that we have a right to govern ourselves. Okay? We do. Um, so no, it's not just, well, we found out that you breached the contract. Let's just start the same contract over again. That's not how business would go when fraud was found. You don't do business with cheaters. Okay? Okay. Now, the nobility will have to revamp themselves, but we know that it's still the nobility, right? We know that no matter what you call yourself, you're still what you have always tried to be, was superior, not only to the people that were under you, but to people that had nothing to do with your little monarchy. But you decided that, oh, God gave you the right to be my king and queen. You better take that little thought to hell with you, because that's as far as it gets with me. When I tell you, Indians, I am so pissed at the idea that something was taken from me and then I was left for dead. And this system thinks I would want to do continue. When you there's genocide involved here, right? If a person did it, they would be called a murderer. So when a corporate entity does it, it's called genocide in theirs. Okay, so then why would you want to work with that thing? It's committed criminal acts, y'all. So no, there is no, oh, now let's just fix it. If Indians don't make their own system, I don't know what's going to happen to you, because you're asking for the worst. You better start doing something, and it better be from you, by you, and you better make sure that whoever's making it. That's why I really feel that this sounds crazy, but I really feel that every Indian has to make their own law first. I know it sounds crazy, but what else can we do? With so many Indians wanting to stay in the system, you have to create some form of a standing for yourself before you can even try to stand with others, right? So there's some kind of basic uh, laws that Indians have to make. And I shared my public notice with you, so that had some ideas, I think, and I did say that it's subject to be edited, right? So that's what we have to do, because they force us to be individual Indians standing in their state. We have to stand where we are and tell them why we're not in their state, because they made sure that we were left standing there. They're hoping that we just always feel like many of us do. Let's just stay in the system and try to work with it. Yeah, that won't be me, y'all. I want my reparations, because I'm going to say it like I feel it. I'm going to live off of that for the rest of my life. That's what I'm going to live off of. So I don't need to be in any system. I just need this system to pay what it owes me. That's all I need from them. And also to tell your goons that when I show them my ID, they better step off. That's what I need from this system, to get out of my way and to give me my land back. You know, again, I have to be very vocal when I say don't accept their money, y'all, because they're gonna toy with you with their money. Tell them you want the same kind of credit card, similar, not the same, a similar card to what you giving these illegal immigrants who don't have a footing in this country, don't have no rights, but the ones that Congress is going to make for them. That's the kind of card I want as an American Indian, but I'm not paying it back. It will not accrue any kind of what do you call it, interest or none of that. I don't pay anything back. And it's going to be like it's going to magically repopulate funds whenever I need them. Yeah. And I really need Indians to be very clear. Be glad that they got these immigrants here, because that's the same kind of credit card you're going to get. But it's not really a credit card. It's your reparations. And they're going to last you for as long as you live, and then you're going to pass that down to your children, your posterity. As long as this beast is on our land, what else can it do? It showed that it has no love whatsoever for us, right? Okay, you put yourself here, so you want to pay my whatever bills that I have arrive. Okay, thank you. Okay, for nothing, but I'll take this. Okay, for now. But when you have the land back, they owe you rent at something, and you tell them what you want. Don't take their dollars. Don't just accept their dollars. Tell them I only accept credit. That's what the Queen said. You remember when I talked about what Anna said about what the Queen did when this United States beast that they created was nearly finished paying the debt? They wanted to pay it all. Well, they do their little games, right? They knew they wasn't gonna allow that shit to be paid off. But anyway, we're told that, or we found that when this government went to pay off the debt, the Queen refused to take it. She said, give them more credit. Smart. We try to keep it classy. Smarty pants, isn't she? Well, we're gonna do you one like you did us. We don't want your money. We want credit, but that credit is our reparations. So I'm saying, just like the Queen, you don't have to take their paper, useless, worthless money. You could supersede all of that, and you're going to have a card like the illegal immigrants have, and you use that for all your expenses, for medical, dental. We don't want to make it complicated. One card does it all because it's the reparations card, right? It pays for everything. Charge it to the corporation, because that's what they owe me, because they're on my land. And then on top of that, they owe me rent, back rent, retroactive. I think that's what we're going to do, with the, because it started in 1493. So we got retroactive. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's going to go for, I guess that's for the more West Indians. You retroactive. The West Indians that are in North America, you get retroactive from 1492. Okay, this is how we got to think, y'all. It's just business, y'all. We ain't, causing no bloodshed, nothing like that. This is how business go when you do bad business. That's just how and they chose to willfully do bad business with us. The business experts, right? All about commerce, right? And this is how they choose to step to us. Okay, thank you. So as long as you exist, I guess, on my land, definitely, you must be here to transfer that wealth that you took back to me. Okay. All right. All right. But this is my land, and I'm going to walk on it like it's mine. I'm going to live free on the land. The big house is going to be mine, free and clear. You don't have fee. You didn't have authority to have fee title, what you call fee title, whatever title you have. You didn't have the legal authority to have that. Because when you entered the contract with us, we were still Indians, not taxed. How do you get fee title of land that belongs to us? Well, you go outside of the Constitution to do it. That's how you did it. So, so again, you Indians talking about you worried about title and you worried about land grant. You got to supersede all of that. That's all in their system. Your system was called your birthright. They owe you your birthright because they stole it. They stole it. Even with the contract that they had, they stole your birthright. The contract said you were to be left alone. Your land was yours, Indians. These greedy bastards didn't want you to have anything to generate wealth. They were going to bring you to your knees, and then they were going to genocide you like they did in the last 3 to 4 years. This is a sad situation. So now you owe us for the genocide. The theft you owe us for, the genocide you owe us for, the pain and suffering that goes with the program. Uh, yeah, the rent, the back rent, that's a lot. Oh, the bill is, oof. That's why I said, let's make it simple. Just give me life, endless, uh, unending, what you call credit. Just make it easy on yourself. But again, the land is mine. And from this point, you can't even talk. From this point forward, you owe me for being on my land. If you're on Algonquin territory, on Algonquin land, whatever those businesses are sitting there, they pay rent, right? The place I work, they had to lease that building and all of that land or whatever. So businesses have to pay for what the land that they're on. They somehow, whether they call themselves owning it or leasing it, businesses owe the land owners. For far too long, the Congress has been acting like landlord because they genocided Indians. We're back. Okay, so now I'm making a long video, aren't I? Is it still recording? Okay, so this is I think what we might do is take a pause. So when I return, we will look at the article that drives home our standing as sovereign American Indians. Is this recording? I don't see that I'm recording, y'all. Okay, let me pause. I shall return. We are back. I hope my headphone mic is working. If not, I'm just recording freestyle. But we want to get to the next part of our video today. I'm a little concerned. I don't see a timestamp on my video. It usually tells me that I'm, how many and all of that. Anyway, so the video today, I wanted to further prove our standing outside of the federal construct. So we're going to read an article. Now, where is the article? Okay, I have to find it. I thought I opened it, but it looks like I didn't. What's going on? Oh boy. Okay. I am not seeing the screen that I want. Okay, so let me see if I can find it. Freak it. I'll just find it. What's going on? This is crazy. This is crazy. Okay. So we want to bring to light as many references that we need to show Indians that they don't have to be under this federal system. And once you get out, you should not look at it like, oh my God, now I'm in trouble by daddy or with daddy. No. If anything, he better be there in some form of service. You're on my land, right? You don't want to cause no crap with me, do you? and look like the horrible colonizer that you intended to be. So let's read this. I believe it's 6 pages, but there's key parts and some parts that are talking crazy, and then there's some parts that are talking sense. Now, wait a minute. Okay. So this is Bill of Rights in Action. It's from the Constitutional Rights Foundation from winter of 2021, as you see over here on the left, volume 36, number 2, American Indian Sovereignty. Okay. This system, in the beginning of this article, we see the shenanigans, but we're going to fix that, right? So there they have the Mongolians, poster boy Indians that they always show when we just read that the real Americans were Negroes, right? Those are the ones that, see, these Indians don't get all this propaganda because they don't need it. They ain't going to find no history with them here, right? It's the ones that they really have to work hard to create a whole other life for, right? A whole other history for. Those are the Indians that pose a problem, not these guys that we're looking at. These guys are getting whatever Congress throws at them. They're not getting our birthright either. I believe Congress got our birthright. That's why they don't want us to be here. That's the only thing that makes sense. Oh, but that is in service to the nobility and the priesthood that they represent. Right? Right. So those are not the Indians. It's just one of those pictures they use for propaganda, right? We just read what happened to American Indians, and we've deduced that they must be the real Indians because those are the ones that this federal government must deal with. These guys are just getting crumbs and they being led to believe that our history is their history, forgetting that they come from Mongolia. They don't even want to talk about it. That's not right to your ancestors. There's a whole lot of unhappy ancestors on the other side, y'all. Then why none of our children want to recognize us? Because these folks here that they picturing. Let me not go there. Let's not do this right now, okay? So, sovereignty is a political term that refers to the supreme power of a self-governing nation over its land and people. Over time, the U.S. Congress and the Supreme Court sharply weakened American Indian sovereignty. But a recent Supreme Court decision may begin to turn the tide. Thank God. Thank God. Now I know there's a God. No. What is the problem with the last part we just read for Indians who want their birthright? Not for the ones that's playing play, okay? Playing commercial games. No. What is the big problem with what we just read? You know what it is. So you're telling me that the Supreme Court is the one that weakened American Indian sovereignty. But now you're telling me that they made some decision that may begin to turn the tide. How about the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction to do any such thing? Yeah. You see, folks, I think they've retarded their own brains, but they had to. They had to, like they did with the globe when they painted the globe. We had to paint in the parts of the ocean and the clouds, but we had to. Yeah, that's the problem, though. You shouldn't do that in both cases. Now, the first part was correct. Congress uh, really led the charge in genociding American Indians, right? For those people who have so much faith in the Supreme Court, this article from what is this organization again called again? The Constitutional Rights Foundation. Okay, so they have another view of the Supreme Court. I think Indians think when they hear Supreme Court, they think of Diana Ross and you know all that good music and the Supremes. They must be on our side. That's the Supremes, right? uh, no, no. No, it's not them Supremes. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. These are the ones that will not stop in the name of love. Okay, they won't stop in the name of love. This is the Supremes that says, "I will kill you, I will rip you, I will tear your heart out." Okay, that's more the kind of music that these Supremes sing. Okay, remember what we read about Ginsburg in the last video, right? They dance around the fact that this is based on a Christian doctrine. They don't like the article we read. Well, it was the book from Peter DeRico. We read the introduction where he talks about the three foundational cases. And then he names some judges that made rulings in the Supreme Court that went against Indians, and they relied on the doctrine of discovery without even saying that they relied on the doctrine of discovery, right? This is how conniving, demonic this system is. So I read that and I said to myself, here we go again. Why can't the Supreme Court keep its nosy ass out of our business? You don't have jurisdiction, Supreme Court. Who gave you jurisdiction? Oh, you think because you the top supreme, oh, the word supreme make you think that that's in our jurisdiction? But it's not. It's in your foreign jurisdiction. You're not supreme to Indians, okay? If anything, you're a supreme headache. That's what you would be. Because you're taking authority that the Constitution did not give to you. Okay? So we're going to check that at the door, right? But a recent Supreme Court decision may begin to turn. No, thank you. You still got me in your jurisdiction. So that means the table will turn or the tide will turn. Then a few months later, that shit going to turn right back around because it's all under your authority, Supreme Court. So go sit your ass down on your bench and shut the hell up, okay? The National Museum of the American Indian indicates, oh boy, now they got a museum to these Native Americans. Okay. You know, they don't got what ours is called the African American Museum, y'all. But we just saw that there's no such thing as an African American. What we have is blacks who were called colored and Negro, right? And then in the last few what was it, the 19th, or no, the 20th century, now we're being called African American, right? Well, wait, no, yeah. Now we be all of a sudden we're African, right? And then they make erect a museum to this fraud. This is what happens to real Indians, y'all. Just side note, sidebar. This is how you know who the real Indians are, because Congress is doing all kinds of somersaults, apple turnovers, to change us. They don't bother with Native Americans, right? In fact, Native Americans were not called black. There's no way this group of, I guess it's men, are called black, right? Now, they've been getting jiggy with colored lately. But we know that when they put colored only signs up, it wasn't referring to these cats, right? These cats was on reservations already, if I'm correct about that. They already was, parceled off. But we was all over the damn place. That's why they had to put them signs up called colored only and white only, right? Literally bought a whole system that we had no idea what this thing was, just to segregate us, to make sure that the real Indians were treated unjustly. These folks were not in the South, y'all. These folks were not in the South. It was we, so-called Negro Indians, who was in the South. My people are from the South. Most of our Indians have a Southern origin. Well, I can't say most, but I'll say definitely, the ones who have most been dealt with most egregiously were the Southern Indians, Southeast Indians. These folks wasn't in the East, y'all. It wasn't the Southeast. Mm-mm. Mm. Um, yeah. So let's get back to the art. The National Museum of the American Indian indicates that the American Indian, I want to put my AC on, a little warm. Excuse me. The National Museum of the American Indian indicates that American Indian, Native American, and Native are acceptable terms for indigenous people in the U.S., though use of a specific tribal name is preferred. Those are not acceptable. Those terms are not acceptable because the Constitution it only speaks of Indians. And by association, it's American Indians because it's the United States Constitution. It's the Constitution for the United States of America. So when they're talking about Indians, naturally they're talking about American Indians. So this is some more mumbo jumbo. Why do they need so many terms for one people? They do that when they are playing Russian roulette with your identity. You need exactly one identity as a group of people. If someone starts getting creative, it's going to take you outside of your identity or put someone in under your identity. So no, these are not acceptable terms for American Indians. Indigenous could be anywhere. Aboriginal could be anywhere. American Indian, that's who's mentioned in the Constitution. But you see, they want to make it interchangeable because that's how they siphon off of the American Indian. Now, to say that these are acceptable terms, you are now encroaching on those who are legal Indians with illegal Indians or unlawful or outright non-Indians. So no, you do not interchange terms that are in your legal documents unless you want chaos so that you can steal identities. This is, I can't even believe they said this, but this is what the system would want. Just like they gave us all these different Negro, colored, black, blah. Why do we need all of these? So that you can continue to disenfranchise us by keeping us outside of who we really are. And I've deduced that the reason why we go from color to Negro or Negro to color, whatever it was, is because once you abolish the unjust laws against coloreds, you can now introduce some more unjust laws under Negroes and make them think that they've elevated from color or something to that nature, when all of it is BS. Also, use of specific tribal name is preferred. Oh, I got you. I got you. I know who my tribe was. I know where we were located, so I'm good there. But for you to lie, mislead people that say Native American is the same as American Indian, when only the Black ones are being treated like crap, it's very disingenuous. Well, you might say you're both are being treated like crap. That's true. I won't deny that. But we are the ones that are being, our rights are being taken while Native Americans, but they got to get what they can get, right? Because they're not the original Indians. So it's more unjust to, quote unquote, Black Indians to have their name be synonymous with Native Americans. No, they're two different things. Anybody can be a Native American. Anybody can be a Native American. Not everyone can be an American Indian. Well, the government will do all it can do to make that happen. But all of that, as we are discovering, has been done under false pretense and genocide. As historian Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz wrote in An Indigenous People's History of the United States, I use indigenous Indian, and native interchangeably. Yeah, because you're an idiot. And it's a come up for you. Meanwhile, you're encroaching on my constitutional position. And you ain't even getting it. But you better not get it, because that belongs to me. Native Americans are not going to be Indians not taxed if we haven't figured that out yet. Okay. This government, well, they wouldn't want, they need all the money they can get. So they are not going to make Native Americans not pay taxes. And boy, when Native Americans realize how fraudulent they are, there was some pissed off Mongolians up in this piece, yo. I would be. What you get? You mean I'm Mr. Potato Head? You made me? Mr. Potato Head, I made you. I made you, you know it's true. Mr. Potato Head, I made you. Yeah, they Mr. Potato y'all. They Mr. Potato Headed y'all. Y'all need to go home and get in touch with your ancestors. Your ancestors are, see, this is what happened when your ancestors are pissed off. They Mr. Potato Head your ass. Like they did us. I mean, we tried to hold on to our identity. This beast snatched it away. They left us standing there without our tribes, and they knew that we were vulnerable. So they got us at our weakest. I use indigenous, Indian, and native interchangeably. You need to go back to Mongolia, sweetie, and call yourself Mongolian. Okay? Indigenous individuals and peoples in North America, on the whole, do not consider Indian a slur. In actuality, the more thoughtful of us, we do see it as a misnomer. But we understand that it is in the Constitution, and that's what some misguided Indians decide to, call us that. But for lawful legal purposes and for the sake of the contract, we have to assume the identity that, you know, is supposed to represent us in the Constitution. But once we really let it be known that we are our own government, we can tell them the new name that we have, because we really don't want, it's almost like we don't want no bad memories, right? What our ancestors did, although I know a lot of Indians don't like to see America as the ancient, what they call Egypt that was, what they did was when they had a bad pharaoh, they sought to blot him out like he never existed in their land. And that's what they did with Akhenaten. Our ancestors didn't play. They didn't want to be reminded of the hell that they went through. So I'll tell you this, if we wanted to, we could rename the damn continent to talk about getting rid of a bad memory, but also having birthright authority and the naming authority. Naming something is very important in establishing your authority over it. This being American Indians' lands, they do have the authority to rename it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm as serious as one of these clown Supreme Court judges right now. I am very serious. And I think we need to consider renaming this continent, because from the beginning, they've been naming us. From the time Columbus came here and called this America, the Moors called it whatever they was calling it. It's not the look of a truly sovereign people to be named by some entity and come to find out that entity is your worst nightmare. Keeping their name is like keeping in a nightmare. I mean, it's not the most critical thing on our list of to-do, but it is something that I think needs to be taken into serious condition. You have to assert your authority. And what better way to do it than to tell this whole planet, oh, we're not, didn't they do it with the Russia? Didn't Russia rename itself or something once they became, I don't know, the first it was the USSR, I don't know, but they have that authority. There's instances where renaming occurred in history. It's not that big a deal, really. But anyway, I use indigenous, Indian, and native interchangeably. Well, it's a come up for you. Indigenous individuals and peoples in North America, on the whole, do not consider Indian a slur. This article follows these same guidelines on terminology. The founding fathers said little in the Constitution. Yeah, because we wasn't part of the founding fathers' little situation. Okay. So the founding fathers said little in the Constitution about the American Indian peoples, aka nations or tribes that lived around them. Now, this we read in the last video, but I like the way it's worded here. They actually read it how I read it. If you remember, I decided that putting Indians last helped us to comprehend what it was saying better. And that's exactly what they did in this article. So they have Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. So they're calling it Clause 3, where it doesn't say Clause 3 in the document, but they call it Clause 3. Okay. Representation in the House of Representatives was based on counting all free persons, 3/5 of slaves, but excluding Indians not taxed. The next line is critical. Thus, American Indians were not considered citizens of the United States. Why is Heru doing this video and actually going to name it the same as the last video? I need my viewers to be crystal clear. When someone is not a citizen in the United States, that means the laws of the United States do not apply to them. I'm going to say it again. Anyone who's not a citizen of the United States, none of their laws, none of the United States laws applies to them. Let's say it one more time. Every law that an American Indian sees currently, when you pick up a law book or read a case dealing with citizens, none of that applies to an American Indian who is not a citizen. Let's read this article again. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Representation in the House of Representatives, that's Congress, that's the Senate and what is it called? House of Representatives. Wait. What is it? The House of Representatives. Had a Senate and a House of Representatives. Yes, there's a House resolution and then the Senate. No, I'm saying a House rule and there's a Senate, whatever. Okay. Representation in Congress was based on counting all free persons, 3/5 of slaves, but it excluded Indians not taxed. Thus, American Indians are not considered citizens of the United States. I need people that understand the law even a little bit to focus right now. I am not playing when I say they don't have the jurisdiction to do anything that they have done to us. They don't have the jurisdiction. And now, because they stole jurisdiction, because as we read, that was an intentional reclassification. This was done on purpose. It wasn't an accident. You intentionally stripped me of my American Indian standing, which had nothing to do with your little federal system. That includes republic. Let me say that again. That includes the republic. I'll say it one more time. The United States system of citizens includes the republic and the Democrat. The republic and the democracy. So no, Indians would not have built the republic. That is another thing that I have to revisit. We got to line the ducks up, y'all. Why would you build a republic in a system that you're not in? Why would you build a republic in a system that you're not represented in? You wouldn't. A Negropean would. A Moor. That's what a Negropean is. That's what a Negropean represents. A Moor brought you this system. And the first Indians he got to be in bed with were the Iroquois Confederacy, who effectively became the Moors. If you walk like the duck, talk like the duck, act like the duck, you might as well put the shoe on your duck feet. For all practical purposes, the Iroquois Confederacy are Moors, just like the 5 civilized tribes admit to being That guy had no problem admitting the 5 civilized tribes are Moors. Look up my video. Amun Hotep, no, I'm sorry, Amun Hotep Chavez El Bey. He had no problem telling us that the 5 civilized tribes, including the Cherokee, are Moors. Now, why did he say that? Well, he's saying that those are the tribes that are mixed in to the degree where they have taken on the Europeans' legacy. That's all. And they're not ashamed of that. Unfortunately, though, what this system has done is led them to believe that they still have the same rights that regular old American Indians have. They're making too many claims. When it comes to Indians, because of the severe travesties, political travesties that have been heaped against us, we have to make a choice. Now, I thought about this and I realized in a normal situation, it's okay to identify as either your mother's people or your father's people. This is not a normal situation. This situation involves a genocide of one side of the family. So this situation requires Indians who care about their side of the family to say, oh no, I have to, political reasons, and for the sake of saving my country, I have to let you go. Your side, that side of the family is going to be good. They have a legacy overseas. The Indians don't have anywhere to go. Do you see why there is a schism, and there has to be, between Indians who have mixed like irreverently with the colonizer versus Indians who were called Black? Now, both of us are getting messed over, but the Indian who's all completely Europeanized, they don't know that they're getting, somehow they don't seem to know that they're not in law of the land. They are in commercial code. They're attempting to own our land through commerce. And I'm here to tell everyone that is not going to happen when the Indians show up. That ends all of that. It should have never been done because the Constitution didn't allow for it to be done. We are on a crime scene, y'all. What Indians have to do, I'm going to say it again. If you care about, most likely it's your mother's side of the family, you're going to have to identify with her. Why? Because we have been made to be in an eternal war with Negropeans who, when they come to mix with us, the intention is to get rid of us. And they will preserve you mixed Indians just so they can have your, erase the majority of your family from their own homelands and then claim that you get all of that. It seemed to me that the 5 civilized tribes are under the delusion that they own half of America. You better miss me with that one. You own exactly the little piece of America that you had before you got involved with your colonizer. Your colonizer is the one that's claiming to own half of America. You never would have if you weren't part of that BS. And you shouldn't want to do that because, again, you're coming up against only your own people. And you're spreading a sea jurisdiction and making it where there can never be law of the land. The American Indian is the law of the land. Be very clear of that. And I think we can understand now America is the only place. Read that Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and you will understand that America was the only place where Indians were supposed to continue their law of the land. not be taken over by commerce like the rest of the world that the Moors created. Everything outside of America has been founded by Moors. But being the greedy, depraved beast that they are, that wasn't enough. They had to come back and attempt to genocide all American Indians, except for the ones that pushing out their babies so their babies can grow up thinking that they're European, but they just got America through conquest. So that's theirs under conquest. And they own all of the Indian land when it was owned by just the tribe that it belonged to, not some rabid Indian who got in bed with colonizer and colonizer overtook the other Indians' land. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, only Congress had the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. And I find that to be a problem. I just find it something off there. Because again, it's like saying only Russia regulates commerce with when it has commerce with China. I think China is going to want to regulate it too. So I think there's something innately wrong with Congress having the power to regulate commerce solely. And it was a problem because then they started to think that they had plenary authority over even the Indians of the Constitution who are not taxed. They lost their damn minds. That's what they did. Purposely lost their minds. That is intentional. I find Article 1, Section 8 to be problematic. If anything, it would have had to have been a group of Indians along with Congress regulating commerce. We don't want to get cheated either, Congress. But we see that we got royally cheated when you were left in charge. The tribes were therefore something different from foreign nations and the states. Oh, yeah, we were. But the problem is Congress tried to make something like pull a rabbit out of the hat. They should have just treated us as if we were a separate country. But they're so interested and so invested in stealing our country that they couldn't live with that, even the idea of that. They couldn't even live with the idea that our land was ours. They just saw the entire continent as theirs. It had nothing to do with citizens. This was the drive of Congress. Citizens, I believe, once they settled in whatever part of my ancestral land that they took over, they were content. They had everything they needed. It was Congress that had this constant craving to eat up all of America. But what was that? It was genocide. They did not want to deal with Indians point blank, period. They wanted to take the role of Indians and get all that profit, y'all. That's clearly what this was about. And who was behind Congress? Nothing but the nobility. Nothing but the British nobility and the Vatican. Ultimately, this was a question that came up for me earlier. Who was it ultimately that is responsible for both colonizations of South America, the Caribbean, and North America? Well, we can give Britain a little break. What was the entity that started the entire colonization process, and under what doctrine was this based? Who owes American Indians the lion's share of what was taken from them? Well, he did denounce the doctrine of discovery. That's a good thing. All right. It's time for reparations. There we have that linguistic map, early American Indian tribes. This is what American Indians will go by. You will not go by states if you're serious. When you say you want your land back and you mean it, see, it's one thing to say it. When you mean it, you will no longer call your homeland by these colonizer names. You better be prepared to do it. You better be prepared to do it, Indians. If you're wasting your own time, if you're not going all the way with it, you can't half-ass this mission. There is far too many against us for us to give them what they've been stealing for the last 500 years, to continue to give it to them. Learn your original name of your land. That is what you go to this government with, because that's how you're going to establish your standing. You have every right to call your land its original name. Only citizens live in whatever the names of these states are, but those states happen to be on ancestral land. Let's break this down. You see that pink, all that pink area? I'm going to deal with my Indians, okay? And you can't be mad at me. You got to deal with yours, okay? But you ain't going to be mad at me for dealing with mine, because it's just not going to make no sense, okay? It is known that all this pink stuff was Algonquin, right? Over here and over here. I'm going to call that my birthright. Now, America is all true Indians' birthright, but they have a special ancestral connection to the parts of the land that were their linguistic Indians groups. Okay? So, all the Indians that live in this pink area, this salmon colored area, I believe it includes this here, I believe. And Canada. They see, they're not even including our Canadian land. But I believe this is Algonquin. I know this is Algonquin. All of this over here. We were all around the Iroquois, y'all. That's why I don't know what the Iroquois are. I think there's some kind of plant, because they're not as old as Algonquin, I figured. They don't have a language. They don't have a written language. They were using Algonquin as far as from what I saw. Even the name Iroquois is Algonquin. So clearly they're relying on the Algonquin language for an identity, right? So that's why I think the Iroquois are a rogue group of Algonquins, as much as I hate to say that. Or they're just ones who were, again, so mixed with the Moors that they just said, well, let's just do the bidding of the Moors. Because that's what they did. The empire state, empire. Only the Moors dealt with empires, y'all. And then they annexed that to the 5 boroughs, which are called New York, including New York City. But you can see that all of New York and Long Island that's all Algonquin. So why would we be part of an empire state on our territory? Because the Iroquois got access to Algonquin land once they got with Britain. And then we are said to, as I always say, live only in Kent. Boom. So again, look at all that Algonquin land here, y'all. This is my claim. All of the East Coast, and I would have a claim also wherever Algonquins were, here, here, and here. Okay. I'm just speaking for my Indians because that's the ones that's the ones that make me an Indian, right? So yes, I'm going to speak for them. I can't speak for other Indians, but I can tell them that if we could read this stuff. See, I know my part. I just don't know when the writing is this small. It's hard to see because even when you make it bigger, oh Lord, then it disappears when you make it bigger. It's still hard to see, but we'll try. Now it don't want to move. What's going on? Okay. Suffice to say, wherever you are, other Indian tribes, that is your birthright. You can't call it a state. Whatever state it is called, you must not call it that. When you assert your rights as American Indians not taxed that are constitutional in nature, that was the contract. And for that, clearly, you're going to need to have control of that. See, that's the thing. That's where our colonizer breaks out in hives. Because in order for American Indians to be the sovereigns they are, they must have control of their land. All that means is that, okay, let's keep it simple, stupid. As long as the United States federal government is here, they have to pay tribute to American Indians. That's a lot of land, y'all. So when we value what that land is worth, percentage will go to American Indians. It's all American Indians, but let's just say tribute will be paid to American Indians. That's how you get to live as sovereign, because you don't have to work. Excuse me, I'm just kind of stuffy here. I'm gonna have to blow my nose. So I'm so sorry, y'all. Can I mute this? Can I mute this for a minute? Let me see if I can. I don't. Maybe not. I can take my headphones off. See if that'll work. Okay. So the federal government owes us reparations for past offenses and rent for future. Now, the past offenses, of course, will help for our future. But from the time we stand in our proper standing, we are owed, every Indian that has a place on this map is owed rent for the use of that land. And they have authority in how that land is used. Say, for instance, you don't want genetically modified farming done on your land. It's like killing the land in a way, right? Because the way they get in with these GMOs is kind of off the chain, right? And the big billionaires that buy up all farmland, like Mr. Gates, in our courts, he would be held accountable for what he's doing. And it would be, if it's found that he's concocting some kind of genocidal, produce, that land can be taken away from him. It can be taken away from him anyway, but I'm just saying, because we know that he's on a eugenics type of there's too many people agenda, he would have to be held accountable for what kind of farming are you doing, and then who gave you that land, because they didn't have the authority to do it. Who did you buy that from? Congress? Yeah. Um, again, this is just now, Indians will hear this. You have to be your best advocate, Indians. If you hear this and it hurts your ears, you let the ancestors give you a new set of ears with your eyes, because you have to hear this. You have to talk this way. There is no other way but genocide. This beast ain't playing with you, and you need to stop playing with it. Now, business is business. If they wanted to come here to do commerce, and that commerce ended up with you having no authority on your land, but now you wake up and find out, oh my gosh, this is my land. Woo, whoa. Okay. So you're owed rent. You're owed tribute. Forget rent, it's tribute. Whatever you make, I get a percentage of that, and it supports all the Indians that are on that territory. All those people laying around on the sidewalk and all that, they should be in homes with what is owed to them by this system that makes. Well, we'll take a look. Later on, see what we can see. What's the gross national product going on? And, so there you have it. That's the land you have to claim as an Indian. Don't be talking about no damn Virginia, okay? Or North Carolina, okay? And that goes with the state lines. Our lines are right here. You see where those lines end and begin? That is your territory, not what they calling it. It's bigger than that. It's big. Your Algonquin's territory is bigger than North Carolina or Virginia. It's the whole East Coast. And it is part of the South. Because North Carolina, okay, we would have to look up the states of the Confederacy, because this map kind of makes it look like it's more North America. But the states of the Confederacy included Virginia. So Algonquins spread, in other words, we can't really go by what they're calling North and South, because Algonquin territory was North and South. So it was both. I believe that dark purple is Iroquois. I believe, but I didn't think they even had that much. But I think that's what it is. If I could make it bigger. Yeah, because you could see the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, this is the 5 civilized tribes, right? So this is the Iroquois, the break-off Indians, okay? They got to dominate over Algonquin's territory more than any other Indians. It was the Iroquois that, they were concerned in their creation story. They were concerned with a turtle growing bigger and bigger, and then they called, the world Turtle Island. So, sounds to me that the Iroquois, not only do they want territory in North America, if you go with the Turtle Island narrative, that leads to the whole earth is Turtle Island. You see? So once again, Indians are unknowingly going outside of their jurisdiction. That's what the Moors want. That's not what Indians wanted. Indians were okay with the Moors having their place outside of the Americas. The Moors were not okay with Indians having a place in the Americas. Moors were not okay with that. That's how I know those bastards don't give a shit about us, even if they think they do. They're delusional. The religion has, again, Islam is just another branch of colonizer religion, okay? If these Negroes think that they can twist and turn that into something else, they have to be delusional. You're calling on a colonizer's religion, and then you're going to act like you against colonizer. Make it make sense. I am very sorry. Islam is not the quote unquote, well, yeah, it is the black man's religion. It is not the American Indian's religion. Now, they're saying Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, this provision gave the president the power to make treaties with the advice and consent of the Senate. This implied, they're walking, treading carefully now, this implied treaties with the Indians. It implied it, which had been the practice of the British, the American colonies, and state before and after the Revolution. Well, of course it would, because we were separate. See, that what I'm getting from reading this, we got to understand something. Conquest and actually really doing business with nation to nation is two different things. The United States is trying to make it like they can join hands and sing Kumbaya. This is why the treaty issue is an issue. You don't invade my country and then call yourself making a treaty. I just don't. Oh gosh. Think of NATO. NATO is a treaty, right? Was there any conquest involved in NATO? National Alliance? I gotta look that up. So you might say a treaty born of two peaceful nations is different from a treaty born of conquest, where one nation is just showed up one day based on the doctrine of discovery. See, it's a conflicting ideology, because the doctrine of discovery is saying you don't have to treaty with these heathen, just take their shit. But then they kind of want to make it look good, so they call it a treaty. But then years later, they say, well, we don't want to do treaties with you no more. What am I saying? I'm saying this entire legal system was based on the doctrine of discovery, not a treaty. And the doctrine of discovery has been denounced. And notice how it's written. It gave the president the power to make treaties. So it sounds a little one-sided. Did the Indians have a choice in these treaties? I still had a little issue with Dorico, because he's saying it's not conquest, it's a pretense of conquest. But I think it's conquest with a pretense of commerce. You know what I'm saying? Because conquest, this is what this is. It is nothing else. It's conquest based on some religious ideology that disregards the rights of a certain people. So it's conquest, the pre under the pretense of commerce is what I would have preferred Mr. Dorico say, although I agree with everything else he says pretty much, except the part, if you go further in this book, I think he thinks, or he is somewhat uh, uh, advising or providing that the United Nations can solve all of this. No, they can't. No, they can't. Not the United Nations as it stands. They don't have the jurisdiction because they were created. Who created it? It was the presidents of the corporation that created the United Nations. I think specifically Woodrow Wilson, and I think FDR did something. One was the League of Nations with Woodrow Wilson, and I think with Roosevelt, I think it was the United Nations. It was revamped into the United Nations. But you see, what is happening is, see, that's not, the American Indians are not in that. It was built on a faulty foundation because it'll be different if the British corporation was in Britain and initiated the United Nations. Then it would be based on truly their authority and under their, but because the United Nations was formulated by, it was formulated by a colonizer on someone else's land. You see what I'm saying? So it was never so the people of the land, the American Indians, are being genocide for this to take place, is what I'm saying. So the United Nations is built on the blood and theft of Indians. So for the United Nations to exist, Indians have to be disenfranchised. Whereas if the United Nations was something that Indians were invited to and their land was still their land, maybe we could do something like that. That would be possible. But the United Nations as it is, it's something that was born in while a people were being unjustly treated. And then the United Nations comes along and it doesn't do anything to restore those people back to their birthright. It does absolutely, it can't. It was built on the blood of Indians. So no, the United Nations is not going to be the end all be all. All the United Nations will be is the thing that attempts to be a one world government. So then it really is taking ownership of everyone's birthright. That's what I'm seeing. At the time of the writing of the Constitution in 1787, most of the Native American tribes were sovereign nations. See, here we go again. That is our destiny, Indians. If you don't see that as your destiny, you're going to remain a severely colonized people. And I say severely because the awakening will have come and gone, and you will still be living in darkness, trying to get Indians to believe your BS about voting for Trump. Are you delusional? Oh, we answered that question already several times. At the time of the writing of the, so what does that mean again, Indians? It now buttresses what I said before. There were no cases that made us sovereign because we weren't citizens. So therefore, we couldn't be called into their courts because they didn't have jurisdiction because we were sovereign nations. Do Indians want to return to that, or do they want to live on in what we have been experiencing for the past 500 years as a collective? North America, it's 200 years. The rest is, that makes it 500. That would be the 300 years in the Caribbean. Someone is going to have to get really serious about what this is about. I'm going to read it again because this is really the crux of this issue. Do you go back to being a conquered people, or do you go back to being a sovereign people as you were before you were conquered? Because choosing the former, you remain conquered, getting little handouts from the person who took hold of your house. Now, Indians are going to want some kind of compromise. I can almost see it. Well, can we still have them here, but they honor us? It's not possible. You don't take part of what was taken from you. You take all of what was taken from you with penalty. So you asking for them to stay here, but just cooperate with me this time, it's not going to cut it, y'all. Not going to cut it. As I said before, Indians don't even know how this system works. Because I ain't hear nobody talking like this. I should have. From Indians, I should have. Instead, I hear Indians talking about voting. So if you built this system, why the hell are you talking about voting? Because your system that you say you built is saying that you're not part of the federal government. What kind of psychotic episodes are you Indians having out there? Line up your ducks, okay? You can't tell me you built this system that said you're sovereign, but you want to be up in the system that you built that said you ain't supposed to be part of it. You did not build this system, and it's high time you face the facts. You did not build a republic. Plymouth Rock landed on your head. You did not build it. Stop with your vainglory. You did not build this system that has been whooping your ass. The system is built on a doctrine. Look at the cases that we saw from the last video that are the three foundational cases when it comes to federal, what Peter DiRico calls anti-Indian law. And tell me, why do you think you built this system when the system is founded on the doctrine of discovery? Hello. Hello. Come again, Indians. Heru is not playing with you because he meant it when he said he wanted to be free. Let's review this. You're saying that you built a system that is legally based, the three founding cases, legally based on the doctrine of discovery. So you are your own colonizer? You did this to yourself. Okay, well, you can remain doing this to yourself. I'm not doing it to myself anymore. Because y'all, if you're taking credit for this system, there is something wrong with your thinking. I say it, and I'm going to keep saying it. That last video, if you didn't catch it, the lawyer, the attorney who found out what he was actually in told us that the three foundational cases that this system dominates Indians with is built on the doctrine of discovery. So that means this system is taking cues not from Indians, but from Indians what am I going to say? Colonizers. So the system is taking cues not from Indians, but from the colonizers of Indians. Okay, Indians? So did you build a republic? Do you want to answer that question correctly now? Are you ready to answer that question correctly? Don't tell me that you built some damn republic. You're being puppeted by the Moors. They built the republic. They were here on the strength of the doctrine of discovery. Now, these bipolar fools are going to try to tell us that they time travel. Now, they see Indians just confused, but the Moors are time travelers because back in 711 AD, when they was dancing with the Spanish in Spain, they seem to have forgotten that America didn't exist according to what they're telling us. The Moors forgot that they couldn't have been in America because their narrative says that America didn't exist in 711 AD. Now, a true Indian knows that America been here longer than Europe, longer than Africa, longer than China, longer than Russia, longer than Australia. Okay, but the Moors, you're lying, I don't even know what to call them. I really do not wish to be related to. But your lying ass Moors, they will time travel to a time when they say you didn't exist to say that they was here too. These Moors, when they finally realize that there is a pie hanging on their face, falling onto their lovely silken robes, maybe they'll get a clue. You got a big pie in your face, Moors. How do you explain it? Oh my God, they will have an excuse for everything. No, that's what liars do. That's what liars do. They have to learn how to be quick talking. So they can say, well, no, we knew you were here, but Pangea, go sit down, please. Please, more. Stop it. Stop it. You look more crazy than the people you call the reptilian shapeshifters. Because you shapeshift more than any shapeshifter I have ever known of. Okay? You are the original shapeshifters, Moors. But you're in a really weird place, aren't you? Talking about you were here. No, the hell you weren't. You got expelled. How about that? And you made history that did not include America. That's how much you love American Indians. You cut us out of history so that you could be the shining poster boy of what? Civilization? You liar. You're a liar. You're a Negro Black African liar. That's what you are, my nigga. That is exactly what you are. And you got so many Indians thinking you're the greatest thing because you're such a liar. Ancestors giving out eyes. Go get some. So, at the time of the writing of the Constitution in 1787, most of the Native American tribes were sovereign nations. All of them were. They were at the peak of their power, governed themselves and occupied lands without interference from European settlers. But their sovereign status would soon change dramatically. I think Indians need to like put that in their morning place it on their morning coffee machine. Just take that, make a copy of it, and it will remind you of what you have at stake in this game. Because it looks to me like most Indians are settling for some BS. It's like they're too scared to claim their land. Well, look, again, it's not like we're going to like pull the rug from under the corporation, right? They just have to pay us, y'all. It's that simple. They got it. They're getting it from our land, okay? It's not even coming out their pockets, right? So don't feel bad to take what's yours, my Indian niggas. It ain't coming out their pocket. It's just that they had it in their pocket so long, they think it's theirs. That's all. That's all. Don't feel scared. Don't feel bad. It belongs to you. So what we're going to ask the corporation to do is just simply stop taxing us like the Constitution said. We don't pay no sales tax. We don't pay like that. We just, but then we don't even pay with the credit that you owe us for the reparations. We're not even asking for your dollars because we know that you have a problem with your monopoly dollars. So we say, let's override that little issue you have and just consider my bills paid. That's all. All expenses paid for American Indians while you're here. But even after you go, you're going to be responsible because how long will it take for us? You've been stealing from us as a collective for over 500 years. So we're going to need at least that amount of time to get ourselves really where we need to be, right? It's just business, y'all. You just been living, you've been living beyond your means like most Moors. Now when you see Moors draped in those draperies, think of how they got them, Indians. Think of your life, how you're living in America, being the lowest in the Moorish caste system. And then look at those robes, and you won't feel so proud anymore. I promise you. I promise you. You're going to want to set that Negro on fire with those robes. That's what you're going to do. But we ain't going to do it. I'm just saying. We're peaceful Indians, right? Despite all this shit we've been through, we actually peaceful Indians, right? Because we got the grace of the ancestors, We really do, because we're supposed to be gone. We're supposed to be genocide, And this is due to the Moors. Let's be very clear. Let's be very, very clear. Let's be brutally honest here. I don't feel like playing when I say how this happened. We got Spain, run by Black Moors, being one of the biggest colonizers of our history. And then the Moors disappear and say, we don't know nothing about that. You're a Black, African, Negro colored liar. We're the American Indians. You're the Black colored Negro African American liar. Then you have King James, another whole Moor, whole Black. And now he's going to have the Hanovers. He's going to hand over his legacy to the Hanovers so that he can blame them. Yeah, okay. Okay, Negro, okay. See how the Moors do? They when the white man shows up, the Moor somehow disappears. And all we know is that there's this Caucasian there now. And then the Moor is going to come back talking about, well, I could show you how to get your land back by getting the land patent, blah, 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 blah. Wait, Moor. My rights on the land supersede land patents. What are you talking about? Well, if you file in the I ain't supposed to be doing nothing in this system. What are you talking about, Moor? How come your advice to me keeps me not going by the Constitution. Now, don't get it twisted, Indians. Don't think that you wrote the Constitution because they recognized your sovereignty. They knew what they were going to do, even though they wrote those words. That's what liars do. Now, if you tell me the Iroquois wrote that, I will say yes. And now we know why the Iroquois have to be under investigation at some point. So yeah, Iroquois might have put the words there because they had to make it look good. It was a whole conquest, y'all, but they're making it look like that we being nice. And then, but they know that shortly after, they're going to do exactly what they did, and we became black. Okay? With the paper genocide. So they made it look good for the world on paper, and then they praised the Constitution. What a great document it is. But how great can it be if you're not applying it? And it no matter what you say about it, it's still not tight enough, because maybe none of this would have happened if it was. So you make your words as nebulous as possible, short of saying Indians are sovereign. You could have just said that, but no. You're going to take the long road, going to make it a little more not clear so that you can do what you did to us. In 1787, now we're talking about the removal of Indians. How do sovereign people get, quote unquote, removed? If I'm sovereign, you're supposed to respect me where I stand. You don't have the authority to, quote unquote, remove me. In 1787, Congress enacted the Northwest Ordinance to govern territory north of the Ohio River. This law recognized, wait a minute, Congress, why are you making laws for Indians? Oh, here we go again, y'all. And they just casually say this. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I had to warm it up again. They just casually glide from one point to another and never explain to us how did Congress get this authority to make a Northwest Ordinance to govern territory north of the Ohio? Huh? This law recognized that Indian land and property shall never be taken from them without their consent. You see how they do this? Now, I ask you, why even write that? What would make someone give away their land to pay rent on somebody else's? I ask you, what amount of money would an Indian logically take that they sure ain't going to get so that they can be like a tenant on somebody else's land? So does it make sense for people to consent? Is it legally reasonable to presume that the only land I have, I would give to you? I have to consent to give. Why is there even a question that I'm giving away my land? Is it because you want to take it? So this makes zero sense. You already took land that I didn't want to give you, and now you're talking about land and property shall never be taken from them without their consent. Oh, so first you take it from me, and then you become nice again, and you say, well, I won't take any more without your consent. Now that I took the best of it, I won't take any more. And they went back on everything they see. When you're in their system, that's the problem. They get to do this kind of thing. Indians who want to stay voting, when you stay in this system, they get to decide what you do get and what you don't get. And what they give you, they will take back. When you are sovereign, there is nothing they can ever take from you, so they won't have to give it back to you and take it again, and then give it, and then take it, and give it, and take it. This game doesn't happen when you're sovereign. But Indians act like the word itself is like a curse word. That's how backwards so many Indians seem to be. That this is really laughable. 1787. Now, this, I'm assuming that this is after right after the Constitution done said that Indians are not taxed and counted and not in the system. So why would Congress make laws that deal with us and them talking about our property? You suppose? Oh, God, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. A few years later, President George Washington was personally involved in securing one of the new country's first treaties with American Indian people, the Treaty of New York in 1790. Isn't that when the reclassification took place? $1790. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, so the same year that George Washington was personally involved in securing one of the new country's first treaties with American Indian people, the Treaty of New York in 1790. As part of this treaty, the Creeks, okay, so that's a problem, gave up some of their land in Georgia to the U.S. in exchange for a trade deal and farming tools. Wait a minute. What? How does New York get involved with Georgia, though? So George, okay. A few years later, President George Washington was personally involved in securing one of the new country's first treaties with American Indian people, the Treaty of New York in 1790. As part of this treaty, my problem is I don't know the Creeks to be New York Indian. Also, so they're in Georgia. I'm sorry. As part of this treaty, the Creeks gave up some of their land in Georgia to, do you mean they gave their land to Georgia? Because, again, Indians don't live in states. So they, so the Creeks are giving land to Georgia in exchange for a trade deal and farming tools. See, when it comes to these 5 civilized tribes, I just get a little concerned because they're the civilized tribes. And they sort of become like the only Indians that this country wants to deal with when they were supposed to deal with any Indian, not just the 5 civilized tribes. The Constitution didn't say that only civilized tribes Indians not taxed, right? But to be civilized, you're gonna be taxed. If you're a federal Indian, you're no longer an Indian not taxed. You're a tax exempt. And the Constitution didn't say anything about tax exemption, but the Congress will make up something and they will give it to you as a consolation prize for what they took from you. But that consolation prize is shit. I have to use frank language. I'm sorry. So the Creeks gave up Georgia, their land to Georgia. In exchange for trade deals and farming tools. The treaty also called for the United States to protect the Creeks from outside threats. Oh, yeah. So now they're going to be the savior against other Indians. So see how they got us, you know, pit against each other? And I find myself wondering, what exactly did they have that made Indians need them so much? Protection? Was it the firepower primarily? Was that what it was? Because I guess that's how they did it. Because I don't see any other, there's nothing that they had that we needed except protection with guns, right? That's how the Iroquois got rose to such acclaim in the colonizer system, right? That the Iroquois helped to formulate for them, right? So now the Creeks are going to get protected from those wild, uncivilized Indians, I guess. This provision, common in treaties with other tribes, made the Creeks somewhat dependent. Oh, here we go. On the U.S. treaties like this one were designed to secure peace, regulate trade, and prohibit white settlers from invading native occupied lands. It's interesting because, again, I don't think the settlers were the ones who were itching to take over America. I think it was the government itself, Congress. That was their dream, not the people. I don't think the people really were that interested in literally like just taking over Indians' territory. I think they were happy to have peace when they could have it. It was Congress that was coming up with the what do you call it? Manifest destiny and all of that crap. How are you going to have a destiny on somebody else's land, you stupid fools? Go home. That's your destiny. But as immigration to the U.S. from Europe surged, white settlers increasingly sought to acquire native territories. So, yeah, it would be in the government's best interest to have more white settlers, right? So they pretend like they're going to protect Indians. No, you're not. You're going to mix with them until they think they're you, and then they come up being 5 civilized tribes and all that. And then you just use them to clean the shit off the toilet. But they ain't really getting much protection. So all of a sudden, the civilized tribes is scared. Okay, whatever. White settlers increasingly sought to acquire native territories, provoking often violent confrontation. Who owned the land where the American Indian people lived? Oh, that's a no-brainer. But here we go. In an 1823, oh, here's one of those primary cases, y'all. John Marshall. Let's see. Who owned the land where the American people lived? See, they got to sort of reconcile the doctrine of discovery. So technically, what the doctrine of discovery is saying is that, no, Indians can't own land because they're heathen. So now they got to grapple with that and try to make that make sense because they know damn well it don't make none, right? And then we read that the three foundational cases were based on the doctrine of discovery. So let's see what this says. In an 1823 Supreme Court, once again, it's a civilized tribe that's in that court, right? See, this is what the civilized tribes have to submit to. They were supposed to have their own courts outside of this jurisdiction, and they were supposed to be the landowners collecting tribute. But they get some kind of deal that they think is so wonderful. But see, the whole thing is under conquest. That's the problem here. That's the elephant in the room, is that all of this is really just conquest trying to pass itself as we're just trying to live together and protect you. No, you're not. That would be in your worst interest. So, who owned the land where American Indian people lived? The Indians did, dummies. In an 1823 Supreme Court decision, Chief Justice John Marshall wrote that the Indians had the right to occupy see what they doing to us? And Indians want to stay in this. That's the Supreme Court, y'all. Y'all continue to think, again, that the Supremes like Diana Ross and Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard, y'all think they're going to sing y'all a sweet song and give you your the thrill of your land back? You had the right to occupy the land, but they could not own it. So you don't get no profit. If you're just occupying the land, Indians, and these five civilized tribes, this is what they settling for, y'all. That's why we don't want to be part of them. You see, the awakening was not for Indians who want to remain slaves. It's for Indians who are bold enough to say, give me my land back, and here's why. See, the good thing is we have a here's why. It's called the Constitution. So Indians can occupy the land, but they can't own it. Marshall also wrote that as successors to the British in North America, only the United States federal government had the right to acquire land, Indian land, by treaty or conquest. You see? Native people had a different view. Of course we would. We didn't know that they were looking at us as heathen, I don't believe. They were coming for us, and they were, telling us how guilty we were under their religion. But I don't know if they told us to our face that we were heathens. You know what I'm saying? They just treated us like it because they had the doctrine of discovery. I wonder if Indians knew of the doctrine of discovery at that time. Did they even know about it? You see, when you make all the rules, you just get to do anything, right? You don't even have to tell the people why you're here. You tell the Pope, or the Pope tells you, that you have a right to go take what's yours, my boy. Now go do it, or else you won't get to heaven. Well, who knows, right? Who knows? Who owned the land where the American Indian people lived? In an 1823 Supreme Court decision, one of the three foundational cases that gives this federal government what they think is the right to just own our land, Chief John Marshall wrote that the Indians had the right to occupy. See, they come up with new words and then they define it, but they could not own it. So you'll never get any compensation when these MFers take your land, Indians, until you stand on business. And when I say business, I'm talking your birthright. Marshall also wrote that as successors to the British in North America, only the United States federal government had the right to acquire Indian lands by treaty or conquest. Native people had a different view. Tecumseh, a Shawnee leader in what is now Ohio and Indiana. Now, I believe that that's Algonquin. Uh, once stated that the land belongs to the first who sits down on his blanket or skins, which has thrown upon the ground. Until he leaves it, no other has right. Huh. Now, if they went by that, oh my God, the government would have a field day with that. Okay, then just take your blanket and leave. If I make you leave, then I get to take your land if we go that way. A few southeastern native nations, oh, here we go with the five civilized tribes again. Notice they talk as if there's no other Indians, just the ones that go with the program. That's the only ones they recognize. But the Constitution didn't say anything about only civilized tribes, right? It said Indians. That's why Indians really need to want to get out. A few southeastern native nations, including the Creeks, Chickasaws, Choctaws, Seminoles, and Cherokees, early on began to adopt white Americans' customs and social standards. See, that's the problem. Colonizer comes in and he convinces you to kindly and gently genocide everyone that you come from, all your family, and adopt his, because that'll make you right before God, right? And you'll be civilized. All your family, them demons, you call your family, come with me. I will civilize you. And the five civilized tribes, okay. Thank you, Daddy. Oh boy. So they took up farming. Oh, so now they're gonna act like we didn't do no farming. It's too much, y'all. Ha. Okay. They took up farming. That you must be talking about the European side of your family that took up farming. Learned English, built schools, oh Lord, created privately owned businesses. See, corporations are under the jurisdiction of colonizing. So they love when you create a corporation, especially a 501c3 and all of that, right? For Indians, right? Built schools, created privately owned businesses, and adopted more strict class divisions. Oh, I never heard that part before. So then y'all became more about black and white. And didn't I say that part of your family look down on you, don't want no part of you? That's a strict class division. A few among the elite, oh Lord, the L's were involved. There's your Moors. There's your Moors. L's, elite, Moors, right? Don't got shit that belongs to them, but they elite. Okay. Or whatever you say, yo. You elite, but God didn't give you no land that belongs to you that you could be elite upon. A few among the elite even became slave owners, sometimes through intermarriage with white planters. Whites dubbed these nations the five civilized tribes. They lived in various parts of what are now Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina. Oh, come on now. Why would you say North Carolina? What about South Carolina? Wasn't that more the civilized tribes? because my people was in North Carolina, and we were not civilized tribes. We were the Algonquin. We were not civil. The only Algonquins that I know that partook in this bullshit are the Lenni Lenape. However, after gold was discovered on Cherokee land, Georgia began to take the land and claim it. So I think we're going to make a part two. This is 6 pages, and I think I've stretched this out kind of long. So I want to say thank you for watching. May you be, and remain highly favored. Your land back, your identity back, all the great things. So yeah, that's how the federal does civilized Indians. And yet Indians still want to remain civilized. It's a bigger travesty than colonization itself. But we're going to stop here because I think I made this a long video. And I don't want it to be that long. So we'll make a part 3, I guess, because I'm thinking of making this part 2 to American taxing American Indians is unconstitutional. So we'll continue reading the article, or unless you go further on your own, and I will link it. I guess I should, or should I make you look it up yourself? I'm not trying to hold you back, so I'll probably link it. But yeah. So the purpose of this video was to once again, now this I'm going to actually include in my paperwork wherever I send, because I want the articles that state in no uncertain terms that originally Indians are not under this government. So in order for me to become an Indian not taxed like I should have been, I have to show, so that first document we read from I Love Ancestry, that would definitely be included. Or maybe just excerpts. And then you go forward from there. And Indians, you get see, what that leads to is you must have land that is strictly yours. You must have land that's strictly yours in order to be the sovereign that you were supposed to be. They really had a good game going, because really, obviously, you never wanted us to have our land. Because how else would you be able to dominate us unless you took our land from us? So the whole thing was just a farce, a pretense to make it look like they tried to do good, but then these Indians just wanted to be dominated, so we did. No, that's not what happened, y'all, and you know it. We were threatened if we said we were American Indians. That's what is being said. And it's been said enough that I have no reason to doubt it. And it's interesting. Then after you become Black and all of that, now you have the Ku Klux Klan in there. So it's like you're threatened to be from being an Indian, and then you become Black and you're threatened again. This system is relentless. Indians who want to keep it, I'm going to assert that they're not really Indians anymore, or they never were. They're like the Iroquois Confederacy and the 5 civilized tribes and the Lenni Lenape. They just are too far gone to ever go back. But that doesn't have to stop you, Indians. There's going to be a new Indian on the land, and that Indian is going to actually be a landowner. Yeah, yeah. When you have your own land, you could have whatever business is on it. They got to pay you, Indians. They have to pay you, so you should be able to live as you should. If somebody comes and takes over your land, if they were godly, and we know the system is not, they would at least say, well, because we're using their land, they got to be kept well. They got to live like kings and queens because we're able to do business on their resources. So yeah, we're going to pay them tribute because this is their land. How else would we ever be able to do this? Indians, your land is everything to you. And it's never to be given away, ever. Why do you think the ancestors gave you such a bountiful land that the Moors want so bad? Because you deserve it. You deserve it. You're supposed to live like kings and queens. But don't be like them, is all I say, Indians. These were some wicked bastards, okay? Some wicked bastards and bitches, okay? I just have to call it like I see it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wicked. Excuse me. So if they want to live off our land, they have to pay us in anything that we ask to be paid in. I don't want their monopoly dollars personally. I mean, we should be creating the money for them to use because it's our system that they're on. It's our land that they're on. So if we create the money, it would be, we would control it. That's how, I mean, we have to give them an incentive to want to go home, right? Because they could do this from home. We could teach them how to love, how to want to go back home. And then you could do what you were doing here. But when it comes to our belongings, no, you have to compensate us. So, Indian, I leave you with that. You must want that, or else it's never going to happen. You must want it. No one on earth is going to want it for you because they're just going to want to take it from you. On that note, till next time. Thank you for watching.